Hi, and welcome back to grant writing. I know you can't see me, and that's because some of these slides are going to be very full of text. There wouldn't really be any room for my smiling face. You actually might even prefer to follow along in the transcript itself, but that's up to you. This lecture is going to focus on statements of need. Understanding what need you're trying to meet will be important for your project idea pitch, your letter of interest, and your grant proposal. As I said in my announcement to the class for this module, you're going to need to learn to write about the same project in multiple ways. Um, in order to write about your project in a few different ways for the LOI and the proposal, the best thing you can do is come up with multiple ways of addressing statements of need, statements of impact, and as I'll touch on a little bit at the end of this lecture, discussing return of investment doesn't hurt either. I know it's a little confusing that there are these two acronyms, ROI and LOI, very different things, obviously. So when you come up with these multiple statements of need and the like, you're also going to have to think about which one is the most appropriate for the document that you're addressing. And clearly, the more concise, just punchy and impactful version is the one you're going to want to use in your letter of inquiry. When you read chapter 10, you're going to notice that the statement of need on pages 156 to 161 is incredibly detailed and well developed. The actual statement of need itself begins on 157. This example uses one extended anecdote to demonstrate a broader trend. I'm going to shorten this example to make it more effective. I would actually shorten it before submitting it to the grantmaker too. But I would note also that the grant writer explains that their subsections align with the questions the grant maker asked, and that's a really smart organizational parallelism that would make the grant appear especially lucid to a review board. So here's the transcribed text from the chapter. Consider the reality of 11-year-old Luis. Luis lives at home with his mother, older sister, and older brother, and a younger brother. Luis's mother had several of her children while a teenager. The oldest, 17, is a high school dropout. Luis's parents are separated. I'm abridging this paragraph because I think it already has enough information to be poignant and realistic to the reader. The real impact begins in the next paragraph, and actually, I think the impact is just the topic sentences of this page. Luis is a Spanish-speaking fourth grade special education student who has attended 5 schools in 6 years. Luis has a diagnosis of ADHD, ODD, and has conflict and behavioral difficulties at school. He demonstrates poor judgment and impulsive behavior. Several reward systems have been implemented and modified during the school year, but have not yielded any significant change in his behavior. Aside from the damage this does to his own learning, Luis is interfering with the learning environment of other students by his outbursts and persistent disruptions. But Luis is not an anomaly. And then the grant continues. This statement of need paints a vivid picture of an individual who needs help, and it builds on that example to create a pathos-laden appeal that the grant writer then backs up with logos and ethos. This grant writer could not use the same example of Luis in a short letter of inquiry. It's several pages long. They might instead distill the problem like so. When one student suffers from learning disabilities and demonstrates behavioral problems, a whole classroom can suffer. Our program thus helps students with special needs, but also offers benefits to other students and to teachers. This kind of a statement would multiply the impact, as I mentioned in a former lecture. So that's the way that I would kind of transform something that you're using in a grant itself to a really impactful, multiple impacts kind of LOI statement. Now let's consider a different example, a letter of inquiry from thebalance.com, which is a website with several tips for grant writers that you might want to check out. And here are the really textful pages. You could see the letter and my notes in the transcript if you find that easier to read along with. So I'm just going to briefly read through this and point out some things as I go. Thank you for reading this letter of inquiry to your Anywhere Community Foundation. I want you guys to notice in this first paragraph that there's a warm and direct address to the grant maker, and at the end of this paragraph they say, we are respectfully requesting your consideration of a grant, and it's very concrete how much they're asking for. This project is our first outreach to senior women in their homes. We are finding more and more senior women stay in their homes when they cannot get out to visit facilities such as our senior center. So this is the statement of need, and it could be rephrased by saying our senior center cannot accommodate all senior women because many stay in their homes. Why is that a problem? The next paragraph is going to give you your answer. So the next paragraph goes on to explain, pardon me as I'm toggling between windows. We plan to provide socialization opportunities, health and wellness information, and social services to women who are isolated from communities. So the statement of need is because women who are staying at home are not getting socialized as they should. They're missing out on important health information, etc. The letter goes on. Our pilot program fits squarely within your foundation's areas of interest: health services for seniors, increasing outreach to the homebound elderly, and helping providers of elder services to achieve greater reach within a community. This paragraph crucially emphasizes grantmaker fit. Remember that what you're doing is indicating that you're the perfect instrument to achieve their mission. And that's exactly what they're saying here. You have money, you want that money to accomplish these goals. Here's how we will accomplish those goals with your money. Any city senior center established in 1985, et cetera, et cetera. This paragraph is ethos. It's saying we have a strong reputation. We know that we can help seniors. We've been doing it for years. We're just doing it in a new way now. So you might be wondering, what if I'm writing about my own organization and I can't say that I have all of this ethos from years of experience? You always want to devise other reasons why you are a safe bet. What are your other credentials? Did you graduate top in your class? Have you demonstrated your ability to see a project through to its end? Anything that you can say to make the grant maker trust that you're going to be able to accomplish what you say you want to do is strong ethos claim. And I want to be very clear here. You don't want to trick your grant maker into giving you money. A really terrible, terrible outcome is if you win an award and then you cannot achieve the outcomes that you promised. Sometimes money can be taken back away from you, but it would also inevitably damage your reputation to the point that you wouldn't get other awards. So you need to be very careful and make sure that you're concrete and that you're actually asking for things you're going to be able to do. So moving down to this bottom paragraph here, our satisfaction rate among elders we serve is a very high 95% according to our latest survey. In your actual grant, you'll need to be more specific about that survey. How was it evaluated? Why should we trust that survey? You're going to need to be specific about your assessment techniques, but we'll talk about that in Module 4. Moving on in the letter. The senior population of our country is expected to increase by 30% over the next 2 decades. Many of those seniors are at or below poverty income levels and physically challenged to some degree. So this part of the letter is coming back to another statement of need. We need to serve our current seniors, but we need to build programming now because there are going to be even more seniors in the future. This is a really important way to emphasize the urgency of developing their program. I also think it's great that they talk about their outreach pilot program, and I have a really long note in the margin here. So this is another important point for ethos. If you do not have an established program yet, it's a great idea to pitch a pilot program. Remembering that ideally you want to claim multiple impacts, a pilot program allows you to say that we're helping the people we directly serve, and at the same time, we're gathering information that can help serve more people. For that second item, you might say that you're going to publish the findings from your program to help inform senior programs around the world, or that you plan to use the data to improve your own program. Since you're designing your own projects, I would suggest matching your plans with your grantmaker's problem-solving approach, which, if you've forgotten what that is, you can look back to page 49 from our textbook. If your grantmaker cares about research for policy, for example, you can make it clear that your pilot program will help you write a policy brief. So moving down to this next paragraph that I have a note on, we have limited our pilot program to women because by giving their rationale here, whatever it is, they're also building ethos. And I'm sure you're noticing a trend here: ethos, ethos, ethos. It's really important that you sound credible, you know what you're doing, you're able to accomplish those goals. So moving to the end of the letter, the total cost of the program is $70,000. Half of that has already been committed. This is really great because it shows that other people have bought into your program, and that's another way to build ethos. Again, I know I keep saying ethos, that's because it's so important. And when they say, we look forward to partnering with your foundation in this exciting project, that's another optimistic closing. I really like it. I really like the word partner for grants. The only thing that may be missing from this letter of inquiry is a discussion of return on investment. As I've mentioned before, you want your grant maker to believe that you can realize their vision for them, and you want them to believe that their money is going to go really far, perhaps even towards making a sustainable program that can continue to do important work without the need for more money. So this letter of inquiry hints at that by showing that it independently funds half of its program and that it's developing a strong volunteer base. If I was a grant writer, I would be even more explicit and say the volunteers that we train now are going to continually help serve seniors for generations, make it very clear that you're helping in perpetuum. And I'll say, just as a side note, this is exactly the kind of advice that I gave when I was helping to write our UNF's recent quality enhancement plan, which is a huge 10-year internal grant. I helped the writing program write their grant, and that was the grant that won. And what I did was really change a lot of their institutional language into language about impacts and language about return on investments. And we ended up winning just by 2 votes. So I think those sorts of changes really make a big difference. So with these tips in mind, I hope you enjoy writing your project idea pitches. And once I approve your pitch, starting your letter of inquiry, I look forward to reading both of those items. Bye.